welcome to yet another edition of Pulp Picks. My name is Patrick.
I'm Fritz.
And we're here to give you this week's reading recommendations for the new comic books that have just come out.
The mini new comic books
gosh.
this week. It was a lot.
I've been doing this for quite a while, and this is definitely one of the biggest weeks that we've ever had. It has been months and months and months since we've been down to the fourth shelf, much less almost completely filling up the fourth shelf. So there's tons of stuff to choose from. And what a great time of year for that to happen, because it's starting to be not nice to be outside.
Yeah. So it's a good time to have something you can just curl up on the couch and read.
Precisely. So let's get right into it. And also, speaking of appropriate for the time of year, is your pick.
Yeah. So mine is Universal Monsters Dracula. So it's specifically Skybound Entertainment, Robert Kirkman's imprint at Image, who I'm sure people who've been coming here recently have known now for the Transformers stuff they've been doing. But they also, speaking of licensed materials, for some reason got the rights to like the Universal Studios monsters. Like, so you got your Dracula, your Wolfman, Invisible Man, all that stuff. And it might seem like a weird pick, but I can tell you right now, based on this first issue, I'm real happy they did it, because Dracula here, it's by the creative team behind Department of Truth, which, if you haven't read that, would also highly recommend that. They do also mention in here that's coming back next year, so get caught up in time for that. But no, I just love how they like depict everything in here. Like the fact that they make Renfield a character that like I've never found particularly intimidating in any version. Like, I mean, the fact they just did a straight up comedy about him this year,
right? And
they make him like super creepy and unsettling in this. Like everything about this comic just like oozes like unease. Like, and it's kind of part of the point is Renfield. He's like talking to the guy that they're like holding him because he's been accused of these murders that they all think he did, and he's just like, no, that was my master. And like, they're like, yeah, sure. You're totally not just like have some weird blood illness that's making you go insane. So, and technically they're half right. There's something messed up with his blood, but not in a way that they can handle. But I love, like, Renfield specifically talks to them about, like, you can't stop him because he's not something that you understand. Like, this is, like, which is, like, such an interesting way to look at, like, Tinian talks about in the, James Tinian, the writer, he talks about there's, like, a letter at the end that's just, like, he's not really sure, like, when he first learned about Dracula, because it just feels like he's always known.
Right, yeah.
Like, there's just, like, cultural osmosis. And then that's really good juxtaposition against the book where it's just, like, what if that wasn't, like, something that anyone had any real concept for outside of, like, vague fairy tales from a far-off country? Like, how terrifying just, like, something out in the night just, like, murdering people would be.
Well, which is a great way to approach this, because that's how people seeing the movies originally would have felt, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, Bela Lugosi would have scared the bejeebers out of him. Yeah.
Which, by the way, also, because, like, it is specifically the Universal Monsters version, so, like, it is, like, Bela Lugosi in here, and they make him absolutely terrifying when he does show up. Yep. And the artwork is just, Martin Simmons is, if you've read Department of Truth, you know how much they like to just kind of, like, not do normal panels and just kind of, like, make these almost, like, weird collages of, like, shapes.
Yep.
And it lends itself so well to Dracula and the horror aspects of it all. Like, you'll have backgrounds that aren't really, like, a background for a scene, but just, like, really convey, like, the tone and emotion in a way that, like, just having a normal background wouldn't. The, like, transformation sequences it's like these whirlwinds of, like, blood almost. It's beautiful. It might be the best looking book on the shelf this week, if nothing else.
It's
but
gorgeous,
like, but no, if you told me that, like, a tie-in from a movie franchise from, like, half a century ago or more would be one of my picks this week, I'd probably say you're crazy, but it turns out you're not.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, let's not go too far.
Well, yeah, okay. You know who you are.
Not for that reason.
Yeah. But no, it's so good. I'm so excited for more. Again, also excited that they've, in this, Tinian talked about, Department of Truth's coming back. I feel like I'm trying to, like, promote two books here, but they're both great, so you should read both.
Yeah. Well, and do we know who the other creators are that are working in this universe?
I don't know that they've said offhand. Like we were just talking about before this, that we think we both saw something about the Invisible Man, but couldn't remember if they actually like announced anyone for it. But they've definitely got more stuff coming in the hopper. So I'm very curious to see who they do have for those.
It's going to be interesting. You know, at the Claude Rains, you know, where he's just crazy by the end of it, and he's just taken off the bandages. Again, just a classic. So, you know, to see that in a modern comic book adaptation with some even darker tones is going to be really interesting. But yeah, fantastic. Well, I went with something less horror themed, and I went with Wonder Woman #2. And Wonder Woman, for me, is one of those characters that DC often gets really, really close. But when they get her really, really right, she is absolutely one of the best comic book characters of all time. And right now, this book, Tom King writing it, is absolutely getting her character.
Well, one of the things I loved with this book is it directly addresses the fact that a problem with a lot of Wonder Woman titles is that a lot of the takes with how people write her are very contradictory to each other.
Yeah.
But this plays into that notion of just like, because sometimes people don't seem to understand her, and like once you do actually like get a like feel for like who she is and what she's about, like you like just how much more impactful it becomes then.
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting part of this story is we're seeing it from a point of view that allows us to see one character gets her.
Yeah.
And everybody else doesn't, including, some flashbacks and whatever else. And not understanding her is a big reason why you're just never going to beat her.
Yeah.
So there's a scene where somebody who, by all rights, is more powerful, more experienced, more capable than Diana, and they're in a conflict, and they're trying to get her to say her name, and so they're describing her to herself. And she says, "Nobody gets to tell me who I am."
Yeah.
And it was such a powerful moment in the book, and just everything in this, it's this great introspective into her character while having tons of action. The art is just on point.
Say it anytime I bring him up, but Daniel Stanfrey is like easily one of the best artists DC has right now.
And it's, the ability to go from, on Themyscira and these classic looking weapons and outfits and, classic looking by comic book standards. And then, tanks and guys with machine guns and Kevlar and everything, to be able to seamlessly go between those two things is really difficult and just beautifully done here, which adds to the story because you have to be able to add these flashbacks to what's happening currently.
And speaking of the flashbacks, it does also there's a fun reveal at the end that kind of like ties into the big mystery from the previous issue. It's one of those ones where just like, okay, a question's answered, but it creates more questions.
Very Tom King-like, right?
Yes, very Tom.
We're going down a rabbit hole, and things are going to get very complicated. But yeah, this is just this particular one. While there was a lot of text, a lot of narrator involvement in this, it didn't feel like I was working really hard to read it. Sometimes Tom King can get a bit wordy and things can get kind of bogged down, but I'm very interested to see where this is going because I think with Wonder Woman, it's almost an easier character to tell a complicated story with than, say, Batman, because Batman's had so many complicated stories that you have to be really careful where you go. And a lot of people kind of, we've had a number of people say that they didn't care for Tom King's Batman as much.
I would say
this is great.
This book has a very different vibe to it. It's like that's one of the things I do like about King's work is like even though like you can always still like kind of tell when it's his work, like you can also see where he tries to change things up between like different like his Batman run is very different from this versus very different from he did that like Superman series a couple years back that was in the weird Walmart like magazines they were doing.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it was him and it was one of the Kuberts, I can't remember, but that was really good too.
Yep.
If we don't have any volumes of that in, we should definitely order something.
Sure.
But yeah, so like he's able to like kind of change his like style up a bit to like fit certain characters.
Yeah. And I love that the approach here is that back against the wall, Diana's not going to quit. But before she gets to that point, she's really trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Figure out what it is that she needs to do. Give other people the opportunity to be able to back down, and then refuse to give in. It's just, it's great. It didn't come across as over the top or trying too hard or any of that kind of stuff. It just worked great. And watching Steve's reaction to everything happening was just awesome. So yeah, really good.
Yeah.
I can't recommend this.
And there's also a little backup in there for the new Amazon's Attack.
Yes,
there it is.
Yep.
The
Amazon's
new tie-in.
Attack is starting now.
New tie-in miniseries. It's fun. If you read the last year's Mary Marvel miniseries, it also kind of built off of that.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. Yes. All right, fantastic. Well, let's get to our consensus pick now. And you typically were like, oh, you know, it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
There were so many books this week.
There really were.
Narrowing it down.
And this week, returning for the third time now, is more Immortal Thor. Like, I don't know, what can we say that we haven't said before about just, like, how good this comic is?
It's amazing. And they could call it Thor and Loki, because Loki is so prominently featured in it and so good.
The way that Ewing is writing Loki in here, where it's like legitimately moment to moment, you can't tell like how like helpful and helpful they're trying to be. Like, is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Well, it depends on how you answer a question. Like, well, that doesn't seem helpful. It's not supposed to be.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Well, and so it's got me guessing. Al Ewing is such a good established writer. I am positive that there is a good answer behind this, but how does Loki know what's going on and what's needed? That's what I keep asking myself. Loki is driving Thor to these points that they feel are necessary for Thor to be able to answer the call. To what? We're not entirely sure. We've got some kind of ideas that there are like elder gods or gods from another time or place or something. But how does Loki know about any of this and have enough foresight to know what is going to be needed?
Yeah. Well, if it seems like we're gassing Loki up too much on what is a Thor comic, don't worry. Thor is great. Like I love, they kind of did a bit with this in the previous issue, but I love how much like Thor is like, and this is part of like what Loki's trying to like put him, these tests he's putting him through is just like, he's really having to like actually like think his way through problems instead of just like hit harder with hammer.
Yes.
It's fun watching him be like, okay, this is a Loki thing. Gotta try and think like Loki here.
Yeah.
Try and figure out like what like look for like the hidden meaning in things, look for like, okay, he knows me. He knows how I'm going to react. Like, what should that say about the situation I'm in? Like, what do my actions mean? Like, it's so fun watching him like process like everything and try.
After he kind of throws a temper tantrum.
Well, yeah, but that's part of the thing is he realizes like, oh, okay, like Loki probably like because that's also like it becomes a thing of just like, okay, I'm playing around the thing that he's playing around, but he knows that I would try and play around the thing. Like, he's,
right, yeah.
Like, he's starting to get to the point where it's just like, how in depth is this? And and that's kind of like what we're going again at with Loki, which is like how like his motivations, like how like deep are they? How much of this is like him just being like normal like trickster Loki? How much is this just like have like some like longer con going on? It's great. I especially love it. I don't know if we really talked about like the colors on this book, but they especially you end to be on this like weird alien planet in this issue. They're really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Thor grows a beard. Thor shaves a beard. I love Loki's vibe too. Like, the look, there's a couple panels where it's very Liberace-like almost, with kind of ruffles and it's...
And like they'll turn on a dime from being like, ha ha ha, joking to be like, I might just murder you.
Yeah, yeah. And how much of it is an act and how much of it is not. But the setup for what's coming is when that's an entertaining enough ride itself, you know that this book is going to continue to be good.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, next issue might also be on here because they tease one of my favorite characters showing up and just like, well, how can I not pick it? Especially minor spoiler alert, it's a character that Ewing has also written a lot recently, and boy howdy, getting to see those two in a room together is going to be great.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, with everything else that's going on with that character, how the, tone is going to be here. But yeah, it's interesting. Well, like we said, there are a ton of books to choose from. So no matter what your interests are, there is definitely something down here.
We've got a plenty new number ones today. There's a new Captain Marvel. There's a bunch of new creative owned number ones. A bunch of other series that are just kind of like getting off the ground, like the new Flash and that.
Yes. Yep. The Alan Scott Green Lantern was really, really good. Gorgeously. It's fun to look back at some of these characters who have been around for, almost a century and look at their character designs done with, modern art styles and everything. He looks so cool in that book. It just looks super cool.
Well, especially cool because we also got like the facsimile of All American Comics to just kind of see like his first appearance versus like this is like it's super interesting to see that.
Yeah, it's so much good stuff. So be sure to stop on down. Like, follow, subscribe, check us out on social media, check out our website. If you aren't able to get down here, you can have books set aside or sent to you, and we'll be back next week with more picks. I can't imagine that there will be nearly as many books.
Oh, for my ability to read everything in a timely manner, I hope not. But
yeah, I'm going to have a backlog this week, but we will be back next week. Did I tell you we're up to 100 subscribers?
Yes, you did. Which thank you all.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.